Alrighty, so we're about to begin Perek Zayin of Ayin Beis, Perek Zayin. And up until now, we had been talking about, well, we started off with the concept of keter, of keser. And B'shashik Dumi Yisrael Nasa Nishma. When we proceeded Nasa to Nishma, then Yahud Malach HaShares. Malach HaShares came and they tied crowns to Bnei Israel, to the heads of Bnei Israel, and so on, without going over it all again. We began a discussion of what the difference is between Keser and the other spheroids. Keser was explained as an Or Makif, and all the other spheroids is explained as the inyan of an Or Pnimi. And for the last couple of Mamorim now, we've been discussing the whole concept of Or Pnimi. The inyan of Or Pnimi. So what's the inyan of Or Pnimi? Or Pnimi is Or, which is Lefi Erech HaKelim. In other words, it's Or that the intention is that it will be able to be revealed in the vessels, in the Kelim. And therefore, there's a certain tziyur in the Or. And we explained that there's a machlokes here between Rizal and the Ramak. The Ramak was of the opinion that the oiros are pshutim, that they're all the oiros of pshutim. It's all the same oir in all the spheroids. Only that the kli of the sphera makes a tziyur in the or, a temporary tziyur in the or, a temporary coloration, let's call it, of the or. So therefore, or in a green kli will look green, and a blue kli will look blue, and so on and so forth. And that's what the Ramak says. The Arizal says, no, the oir itself has a tziyur. There's an inyan of a tziyur in the oir, and that's, in other words, there is some kind of hagbola in the oir. And he's going to explain that in the chapter that we're that we're going to discuss today. Perek Zayin, he discusses this a little bit more. But the basic idea is that the or, since it's an or which is already an or pnimi, it's an or which comes post tzimtzum, and it has a particular kavona to be melubash in kelim. It's or that is intended to be revealed in the limited kelim, in the limited worlds below. Therefore, there is already a tziyur in the or. The truth is, Hasidus comes along, we haven't discussed this yet, but Hasidus comes along in various other Mamorim, and later on in Ayin Beis as well, and says that there's actually two qualities to the Or. There's the Pnimius Or and there's Chitzonius Or. Inside the Chitzonius Or, there's a Tzura. It's a Pnimius Or, there's no Tzura in the Or. So both the Ramak and the Arizal are correct. It just depends on what you're talking about. Since the Arizal was talking about the Oires that come to be to illuminate the Kli and therefore bring some kind of revelation into the worlds. Therefore, we must be talking about Chitzonius Or and not Pnimius Or. And the Ramak was perhaps not talking so much about the Oiris in the Kelim, although that's how he did present that. But he would be right in point of in the idea that the shorish of the Oiris, as they are in their shorish, are bli gvul. That all of the oiros come from a madrega of bli gvul. And we will discuss this later on as well. Ayin Beis is just one of those forum that covers almost all topics, all major topics in Chassidus through the 144 Mamorim that are divided into prokim. Most of Chassidus is discussed, believe it or not. And in the other prokim that are not, the other Mamorim that are not yet divided into prokim, weren't divided into prokim by the Rebbe Rashab, he talks about a lot more of these inyanim. In any event, that's why Ayin Beis is regarded as such an important sefer, and it really changed in many ways the whole, let's say, the whole destiny of the acceptance of Chassidus and its Torah in general. In any event, we're not here to discuss history, we're here to discuss Ayin Beis. So let us share screen, and I'll go to, let me just make sure that I have the chat open. Where did the chat disappear to now? Right, I have the chat open, and yeah, to a certain, so hahe'elem are from Gvul. Yeah, hahe'elem are from Gvul. The hahe'elem are definitely from Gvul. The question was asked, you want to make your questions not private, make them, if you make them public, then that way everyone can see the question ahead of time, and it's easier for them to follow along the answer. So the question was asked if hahe'elem are from Gvul. Yes, the hahe'elem are from Gvul. In fact, the hahe'elem are from the Rishimo. The Rishimo was a whole subject which was not really discussed it was mentioned in Kisva Arizal. When I say Kisva Arizal, I mean Eitz Chaim and the various Eitz Chaim, Oitzos Chaim, etc., all those Sforim that were written down by Rabbi Chaim Vital. But there were certain subjects that he didn't really cover in depth. And one of them was the concept of the Rishimo. Where's the concept of Rishimo discussed? It's discussed much more in the writings of Emek HaMelech, Rabbi Yisrael Sarug, and Emek HaMelech. Rabbi Yisrael Sarug was a Talmid of the Arizal before Rabbi Chaim Vital came along. Rabbi Chaim Vital was only a Talmid of the Arizal for the last 2 years of the Arizal's life. Rabbi Yisrael Sarug was a Talmid from way before then, and from what we understand, more than 2 years, several years. And he was sort of sent as a shaliach by the Arizal to Italy. He was a Arizal shaliach to spread. There was a lot of Pnimis HaTorah learned in Italy. You can see from the Ramchal was from Italy. There were many of the Mekubalim were in Italy. Why Dafka Italy? I don't know, but maybe it has to do with the oil in Italy, oil being nimshal to Pnimis HaTorah. Maybe, I don't know. Maybe that's the reason, who knows. But in any event, it is Yisrael Sarug who discusses this more than anybody else, and his Talmid, whose name is the Emek HaMelech, discusses it at great length, and he's the one that really, both of those, but primarily Emek HaMelech, like laid out the whole story of the concept of the Rishimo and what it is all about. In Chassidus, the Alter Rebbe mentions the Rishimo, the Rebbe Mittler Rebbe not so much. The Alter Rebbe explains an Inyan Beis is a Rishimo, but the main Rebbe who started dealing with the concept of the Rishimo, again, Tzemach Tzedek also a little bit, but the Rebbe Maharash. The Rebbe Maharash in a series of Mamorim Tafresh Mem. Tafresh Mem discusses the Inyan of the Rishimo, and he lays out the whole Hasidic approach to the Rishimo and what it's all about. And so the Rebbe Maharash is really the source of much of what we know in Hasidus of these Inyanim, and then of course expanded upon by the Rebbe Rashab, and of course the Rebbe. Frierdiker Rebbe also to a certain extent, but the Rebbe and the Rebbe Rashab discussed it in greater depth. In any event, so the hahe'elem come from the Rishimo, which is the Indian of Koach HaGvul. The Koach HaGvul. Okay. So, we're in Perek Zayin. And, Shulam Yonason, how are you? If you don't mind, I'm going to turn off your camera because it makes it just easier for everybody. You did it yourself. Okay. Fine. All right. We are just about to start Perek Zayin. So that was basically the introduction to Perek Zayin. The Hinen is Baleel, he says a Perek Zayin, if you can see on the screen here. When is Baleel, it was explained previously, but Moshel, in the Moshel that we gave, the Masha Koichus Mizlabshim Ba'evarim Sha'ena Berech Zelazeh. Previously, he gave the Moshel as everything else in Chassidus, basically. All concepts in Chassidus revolve, well, I shouldn't say all, but the vast majority of concepts in Chassidus revolve around the Telem Elokim, the way things are in Adam, the way they are in a human being. There's actually a very famous sikha from the Rebbe Rashab at the end of Torah Shalom, right at the end, one of the Hosafas in Torah Shalom, where he explains that the pasuk, that's the foundation of Kabbalah, is Va'al Demus HaKiseh Demus K'marei Adam, upon the throne of the Merkava that we learn about in Yecheskel, is the Demus K'marei Adam, is the likeness of a man. So therefore, Kabbalah posits, let's put it that way, the whole explanation of Inyonim Elokus by explaining how they are in the Tziyur Adam, right? In the Tziyur Adam, in human form. And therefore, we will talk about in Pasach Eliyahu that Chesed is Droya Yemina, the right arm, Gvura Droya Smaller, the left arm, and so on and so forth. All of the Inyonim in Kabbalah are understood in human form, and therefore, when we talk about, for example, the unification of the spheroids, and particularly the Partzuf, when we talk about Yechudim, which is a concept that is drawn from the idea of yichud of a husband and wife, yichud, union, union of a husband and wife, intimacy of a husband and wife, and so on. And all of the inyonim really, or the vast majority of inyonim are drawn from that. However, Hasidus looks at things from a slightly different point of view, also from the human form, but not Nasa Adam B'Tzalmenu Kidmu. No, I'm sorry, not Ala Kisei Kamare Pnei Adam, but rather Nasa Adam B'Tzalmenu Kidmu Seinu. We will make man in our likeness. In other words, it's exactly the opposite way. In Kabbalah, God is understood from human likeness, right? Whereas in Kabbalah, human likeness is used to understand the Eibishter. It goes in the opposite direction. And the Rebbe Rashab explains over there that from hafshotas hakoiches, from a mafshit, stripping away the koiches of the neshama to be able to understand the inyonim of Elokus. Kabbalah is the opposite. From the hislabshus of Elokus in Kalim can be understood through the koiches of the nefesh. In Chassidus, the koiches of the nefesh are, we mafshit them from their tziyur, from their limitation, in order to understand inyonim in Elokus. A whole different approach. Very important, very, very, very important essay, I guess you could call it. Or it's actually a letter, I think. But anyway, whatever. Very important that everybody should learn it. The end of Torah Shalom in one of the Hosafas, the first Hosaf, I think. All right. So this is what we're actually mentioning over here. Masha koiches mislabshim b'ha'evorim. In order to be able to understand the oiros and the kalim, in other words, the spheroids pnimium, excluding keser, but the other spheroids, we have to first understand how the oiros are melubashim in the kalim, how the light is clothed within the vessel, and we understand that through the slapshus of the koichos of the neshama in the evarim. The problem is that the koichos of the neshama are koichos of the neshama. How can they be melumash in physical evarim? How can they be clothed in physical evarim? The whole process of hafshota that's the hisboinus in Chassidus. Someone asked how does one be mafshit these inyonim? That's the meditation, the hisboinus of Chassidus is exactly that hafshota. If you want to learn more about it, Shara Yichud of the Mittler Rebbe is a good place to look at it. There are many others. I've been planning on writing a course on this at some point in time, but I haven't gotten there yet. So if someone prods me, maybe I'll get around to it. Okay, in any event. So the question is, how are the koiches mulubashim zeh bazeh? How are the koiches and the neshama mulubash in the evarim, in the limited physical evarim? This is ruchnius and that's gashmius. How's the ruchnius and the neshama clothed in the gashmius of the limbs? And he answers, "Hulefi shahin koiches pnimim be'etzem." And the reason for it is, as we explained before, that they're really koiches be'etzem. They themselves are koiches. They are koiches. In other words, the koiches pnimim. They're meant to be, the whole production of these koiches is that they will be closed within vessels, i.e. the evorim in this particular case, in the limbs of the body. Haim koiches pnimim be'etzem. Koiches pnimim be'etzem. B'hainu, she'hain rak koiches hanefesh v'lo or etzem hanefesh. They're not the light of the neshama, but the koiches of the neshama. In other words, the chitonius of these inyonim is what's malubash in the kalim, not the etzem pnimius neshama. If we want to look at it a little bit more technically speaking, as we know, there are 5 madregas in the neshama. There is the madrega of nefesh, which is the most chitzonius, until you get all the way through nefesh, ruach, neshama, chaya, yechida is the most pnimius. Now, where is it shayach for the koichos of the neshama to be melubash in kelim? In the levels primarily of nefesh, ruach, neshama. Chaya is makif, and yechida is makif of makif, makif sheba makif. So it's really in the 3 lower levels of neshama, nefesh, ruach, neshama, that we get islapshus. Nefesh is melubash mamish, the gashmias evorim of the guf, in the actual limbs and the muscles, the limbs, and so on and so forth. That's the nefesh, and also in the senses. In the senses, touch, taste, smell, etc. Some of them more ruchni, some of them more gashmias. Just like the evorim, some are more ruchni, some more gashmias. The hands are more ruchni than the feet, for example. But in any event, the inyonim of nefesh are malubash mamish in the guf. The inyonim of ruach are malubash in the pnimius, the more pnimius kalim. In other words, the kalim of the midois. Regesh being feeling, like feelings, emotions, and so on, melubash in the heart. Now, we might think that this is just, sort of medieval kind of talk, that the emotions are closed within the heart, but we see that this is in fact the case. When a person is very frightened, for example, the pulse goes up. You can see that the emotions affect the heart. When a person is calm, then the heartbeat is much slower, and so on and so forth. And you can tell, and in fact there were mukubolim among them, Arizal, but that could tell from a person's pulse many things about his about that person's inner personality, like who he was, what he was all about, and so on, besides the state of his health and so on. But that is the inyan of the koichos of the nefesh, which are called the emotions, which are melubash. They're clothed within the inner organs, the heart, the liver, and so on and so forth. Now, it's more difficult probably to see it in the liver, but that's the way it is. Liver, kidneys, and so on and so forth. Kidneys shaykh to netzach and hod. And we can also see the evarim, the aver of yesod. That's a kind of obvious one, yesod, which corresponds to the male organ. So since there's no females over here, we'll be able to explain it. The male organ obviously is affected by the emotions, right? This is very clear. We can see this in our own experience. A person gets an emotional excitement or whatever, so there's effects in the Aver HaYesod. All right. And the neshama is mulumash in the moyach. Neshama is mulumash in the moyach. Nishmas shin daled yud tavi name. There's a pasuk that goes like that. Nishmas shin daled yud shaddai tavi name. That is shaykh to the Indian of bina, primarily bina. Chokhmah already is another question, which he's going to get to shortly. All right, so as we said, the koichos hanefesh are melubash in the evarim, either the pnimius evarim, the intermediate evarim, like the heart, or the chitonis evarim, like the actual limbs of the body, depending on which level of nefesh we're talking about. But nevertheless, they're melubash. But the etzem or hanefer is not melubash. The essence of the neshama is not melubash. That would be primarily chaya, but also yechida. Yechida is not melubash. Yechida is mizgale in the rotzoin. Yechida is melubash, mizgale in mesirus nefesh and in complete bittul and so on and so forth. But let's not get into that now because that's not what he's talking about. Let's continue. Umistamtzimim, these koichos are mistamtzimim, they go through a process of tzimtzum, lios bechinas or pnimi. In order to become an or pnimi, they're mistamtzimim, right? They go through this tzimtzum. In order to be able to explain this up above, in other words, we now understand it in the koichas hanefesh. Now we can understand it from being mafshit the koichas hanefesh to understand it lamaila. This is the oifen hahisboinenus of Hasidus. You could say, in a sense, I suppose, that Hasidus was megala the whole subject of psychology. It began with the Baal Shem Tov, which was way before any of the other psychologists. They only came like more than 100 years later, I think. Baal Shem Tov in the 1700s. Psychology really only started with Freud, I guess, in the 1800s or whatever. But in any event, lahavdil. Okay, so we can understand these inyonim as on the nefesh. We can understand lamaila as well. Ha'inyan hu as follows: the hine yadua, the atzilus hu gilui hahe'elem, the orange of amatzil. What is Hasidus? Atzilus. Atzilus is called Gilui hahe'elem me'or ein sof hama'atzil. What is concealed in or ein sof hama'atzil is mizgale in olam ha'atzilus. Or ein sof hama'atzil, the one who brought forth Atzilus. The or ein sof, which means that it's an inyan of infinite, is mizgale in the world of Atzilus. Now, the inyan of Gilui hahe'elem, what's the concept of Gilui hahe'elem? Gilui hahe'elem means that there's really no change from the state of Helem to the state of Gilui, other than the fact that it's Gilui. It's not like yesh, mi-ayin. Yesh, mi-ayin is a completely different subject than Gilui hahe'elem. The difference between olam ha'atzilus and olam biyah, but starting with the world of bria, is that bria is yesh, mi-ayin. All biyah, all bria yitzir asiyah, are all yesh mi-ayin. Masha ein kain atzilus is not yesh mi-ayin. It's the inyan of Gilui hahe'elem. There's actually a very important mimer in the Siddur, in the Siddurim Dach, which discusses the difference between all of these things, between Gilui hahe'elem, yesh mi-ayin, what is it called again? What's the Divrei HaMaskal of the Mimer? It's something like Kayetz v'choyref. I can't think of the Divrei HaMaskal of the Mimer, but a very important Mimer if you want to understand these inyonim clearly. If anyone wants to know, just drop me an email or whatever, or a text, WhatsApp, and I will send you the even the page number of the mimer, at least the Divrei HaMaskal. Okay. So Gilui hahe'elem me'oretz of ha'ma'atzil, that's the inyan of olam ha'atzilus. Gilui hahe'elem is hashra not related to yesh mi-ayin or Gilui hahe'elem. Hashra is related to Gilui hahe'elem. Good point. Very good point. One of the things that we spoke about, that where Hasidus differs from Kabbalah, and the Baal Shem Tov's chidush essentially is the inyan of hashra of elokus, the hashra of elokus. Up until that time, the Ramak spoke about ishtoshelus, the Arizal hislapshus, and the Baal Shem Tov hashra, as we've discussed on several occasions. And the inyan of hashra is the inyan essentially of Gilui hahe'elem. Very good point, and I'm glad you brought it up. Oh, you brought it up privately. All right, so someone asked the question, is hashra not related to yesh mi-ayin or Gilui hahe'elem? Gilui hahe'elem. Very good point. Okay, let's go weiter. The lotion of Atzilus is, we find in Torah, the word Atzilus is hinted to in the inyan of V'otzalti min haruach asher alecha. This is talking about when the Ruach HaMoshe Rabbeinu was shared with the Shivim Zekanim. The Ruach, which was upon Moshe Rabbeinu, V'otzalti, Hashem says to Moshe Rabbeinu, V'otzalti min ha-ruach asher alecha, v'samti aleihem. I'll take the Ruach that's upon you and I'll put it on the Zekanim. I'll share it on the Zekanim. And the Chazal explain that it's kamadlik ner miner. It's like lighting one candle from another. When you light the second candle, it doesn't detract from the first candle. It's not that the or now goes to the second candle, it's no longer by the first candle. No, both of them now have oil, right? So that is essentially the inyan of otzalti min haruach. So Loshen Atzilus is the same thing. It's a Gilui of or from the or before the Tzimtzum. It's Gilui hahe'elem. What was previously behe'elem is now b'chinas Gilui, and there's no essential change in between other than the fact that it comes into Gilui. He'll explain. Shu hafroshes ha'ora, it is the separating off of a radiance, she'eni is chachus davar. It's not a new thing. It's not yesh mi-ayin, right? It's not his chachus davar. It's the same oil brought down into a lower madrega, but it's the same oil. It's Gilui hahe'elem. Just like the how will you say Atzilus in English? I don't know what the word would be in English. Devolving is not the right word. Anyway, taking the ruach from that was upon Moshe Rabbeinu and sharing it with the Zekanim, she'ein ze mahus acher. It's not a different emanation. Yeah, I suppose you could say it. He will emanate. Yeah, I guess so. Yeah, emanate from the or that's upon Moshe Rabbeinu onto the Zekanim. She'ein ze mahus acher. It's not a different oil. It's the same oil. Shari hashpoa hayat tzarich liyos al yedei Moshe. The ruach that the Zekanim had was essentially came from Moshe. And therefore, all the koiches came through Moshe, because the hashpoa had to come through Moshe. Moshe was the raya mehemna, and they were just the ones that sort of divvied up the oil and dealt with the various. They dealt more with the kalim than with the oil. The oil was given to them via Moshe Rabbeinu, and they dealt with the kalim. In other words, with Bnei Yisrael, that they would have to sort of divvy up the oil and bring down the oil to the madrega of that particular kli. Okay, but on the Zekanim was the oil of Moshe Rabbeinu. Harimash netzal al Zekanim, what was emanated onto the Zekanim, zehu ruach shel Moshe, was in fact the ruach of Moshe, mamish. And it's not Moshe Rabbeinu was missing any of his ruach; he had his full ruach k'moshehu, right? Because we're not talking about the inyan of yesh mi-ayin, we're talking about the inyan of Gilui hahe'elem. What was mizgale on the kalim was behe'elem b'Moshe in Moshe Rabbeinu. Ruach shel Moshe mamish hayakol tchila b'Moshe v'nimshach mi-ahelem el Gilui onto the Zekanim. Okay. Similarly, hu inyan Atzilus l'mayla. So too is the inyan of olam Atzilus. She'ein is chachus davar. It's not a new thing. Just like the ruach on the Zekanim was not a new thing. Ein is chachus davar kamo bria. Unlike bria, shehu is chachus yesh mi-ayin. That's yesh mi-ayin. Ma she'ein ken Atzilus. Is not yesh mi-ayin, ela Gilui hahe'elem. All right, very good. V'zeu she'atzilus I'm not sure what you mean by that. There's a question over here. I'm not sure what you mean. Okay. She'ein with chachus davar kamo bria, which is chachus yesh mi-ayin. V'zeu she'atzilus elokus mamish. And this that we find therefore that Atzilus is mamish elokus. How do we know that Atzilus elokus? Because the Zohar says about olam Atzilus that it's either chayoy chad b'hon, either gamoy chad b'hon. In other words, both the oiros chayoy and the kalim garmoy, as the Alter Rebbe says in Perek Chof in Ageres HaKodesh, both of them are chad with HaKadosh Baruch Hu. Yes, a different type of chad with both of them, but both of them are nevertheless chad, right? Which means that therefore Atzilus is elokus. It's elokus. The inyan elokus, the oiris da atzilus, that the concept of elokus in the oiris of atzilus begins is pashtus me'etzem eloka. The oiris of atzilus are not yesh mi-ayin. They simply his pashtus from elokus. They're the outflow of elokus into the oiris of atzilus. You could say, in a sense, I suppose you could say it like this. Actually, the Ramak says more or less like this. He's more specific about it, but he says basically that there's various ways you can understand this, and that is, for instance, when the sun is shining, and the sun shines through a gate, or through a window, or through a crack in the wall, right? So when the sun shines through the gate or through the window or whatever, it's simply a reduction in quantity, but not a reduction in quality, or even through a crack in the wall. It's still the same aura that comes out the other end. Yes, it's much reduced. In a window, it's much reduced. We're talking about an open window, right? Not through the glass or whatever. And a crack in the wall also, it's even more reduced, but it's nevertheless the same photons there, the same photons as they were in the oil originally, yeah? Same inyan. So as he says, therefore, the inyan elokus, the oiris, the hatzilus, is pashtus me'etzem eloka. It's the etzem eloka which is mispashet and continues down and becomes the oil of atzilus. Okay. It's not the atzmus hamatzil, it's the oil of the matzil, but nevertheless, it's not a yesh mi-ayin. It's not. It's a Gilui of hahe'elem. Hainu she'ein ze atzmus hamatzil mamish ki im ha'ora hamispashetes mimeno, aval lo b'chinis yitzchadshus davar. It's not a new thing. It's the oil. It's the Gilui of mi-ha'atzmus, Gilui hamatzil. But we would have to say, obviously, that Atzilus, even though Atzilus is Gilui hahe'elem, even though in the Kalim, the Oris of Kalim of Atzilus, nevertheless, we would still have to say that Atzilus is ba'en aroch to Atzmus. Why? Because everything is ba'en aroch to Atzmus. Even Atzilus, or if the truth be told, even Aram Kadmoin, is post Tzimtzum. Anything that comes after the Tzimtzum is ba'en aroch l'gabei atzmus. And that's what the whole inyan of the Tzimtzum is, to make sure that everything is ba'en aroch to the atzmus. The atzmus is not mispashet like the or is mispashet. Atzmus contains everything. It's not mispashet into things. Okay. In any event, בכל מקום הרי אצילוס גם כן, בחינס אין ארוך לגבי העצמוס, וכן מובן ממה שכתוב, והחוכמה mi-ayin תימוצא. And so too we will understand from the inyan of hachochma mi-ayin timotzei. Chochma comes from ayin. It's actually presented not so much as a statement as it is a question in Iyov. It's a statement in Iyov, a question in Iyov. Hachochma mi-ayin timotzei. Where does chochma come from? But in Chassidus is always presented sort of as a statement. Chochma comes from ayin. In general, in Kabbalah, it's presented that way. Chochma comes from ayin. Ayin is madrega of keser, and chochma comes from the madrega from the inyan of ayin. Right? Keser is b'chinas or bligvul, the inyan of or makif. Masha enken chochma is an or pnimi, and therefore chochma mi-ayin timotzei comes out of ayin. So he bechinas yesh. Shachokma he bechinas yesh, compared with its source, which is ayin. Chokma he bechinas yesh. V'nimtzeis mi-ayin the keser bechinas yesh mi-ayin. Even chokma is yesh mi-ayin from that point of view. We just said it's Gilui hahe'elem. So what's going on over here? If olam ha'atzilus is Gilui hahe'elem, since olam ha'atzilus is the Iker Inyan of Olam Atzilus is Sfiras HaChochma. As we know, the Tikkunei Zohar says it starts off with the Zer Anpin is Mekanana Bekursaya. Zer Anpin, the 6 meters of Zer Anpin are Mekanana, their home, so to speak. Their most of the home in Kursaya. Kursaya means the Merkava, which is Olam Ha-Yetzira, right? Where all the Malachim are. Most of the Malachim live in Olam Ha-Yetzira. So, and then it goes on, or it's extrapolated anyway in Chassidus, that Bina is Mekanan Bebriya, right? Ima Mekanan Bebriya, Abba is Mekanan Ba'atzilus. Abba, Chochma, makes his home in Atzilus. And obviously, Keser makes his home in Adam Kadmon, so to speak. Okay. But Kopanim, Chochma, from that point of view, if we're talking about from the point of view of Orein Sof, Chochma is yesh, mi-ayin. Is Chochma bechinas yesh? No, Chochma is not bechinas yesh. Right? Chochma is not bechinas yesh, as the Alter Rebbe points out in Perek Lamed Hey in Tanya, in the Hagoah, very, very important Hagoah in Tanya Lamed Hey. Hu levado hu ve'en zulasoi, ve'zohi madregas ha-chochma. That is the madrega of Chochma. Chochma is aware of and feels and is constantly filled with the idea of hu levado, he is all there is. HaKadosh Baruch Hu is all that. Hu levado hu ve'en zulasoi, there's nothing besides it. Right? That's the inyan of Chochma. Actually, the Rebbe Rasham has an interesting question on that at the back of Ayin Beis, at the back of the first volume, if you want to check over there, and he doesn't have an answer for his question, so I'm not going to present it now because it'll get us to sidetracked, but he has an interesting question about this. In any event, let's continue. As is written in another place, this is the concept of timotze. What does timotze mean? Chochma is matsui, it's timotze from ayin. It's a special word. It doesn't say it's yoytze mi-ayin. It's timotze mi-ayin, related to the word metzia, kumo ha-metzia, like the concept of metzia, and a lost object which is found. Someone finds this object, she'ena yadua ma'ayin ba'a. Where did it come from? We don't know whose it is. It's an object that it's a metzia. Something. I found something. I found this wallet, or whatever it is. It's called a metzia. I don't know where it came from. Similarly with chochma, we don't know where it came from. So this is actually where the Rebbe Rashab has his shaila. In any event, Kamo kein bechinas chochma, enu yodea es mekoira. Chochma does not know its makor. Why? Because of the chochma mi-ayin timotze. Now, who's it ayin to? If it's not ayin to chochma, then you can't say that by chochma mi-ayin timotze. It must be an ayin to afilu to chochma. It's for sure ayin to bina and to the midos to malchus. Kes is for sure bechinas ayin, but it's even ayin to bechinas chochma that emerges from there. Chochma comes out of keser, and afal pikein, chochma doesn't even know where it came from. It cannot describe its origins, so to speak. It's a visiting alien, right? Okay, so that's the inyan of Enu Yodeh Es Mekoira. It doesn't even know where it came from. Intuition is more the inyan of Chochmah than it is the inyan of Keser, actually. If someone asked, okay, Kmo hayesh Enu Yodeh O Masig is Mekor Hamahava Oisoi. Just like the yesh, which doesn't know of its origins. It doesn't know where it comes from. In other words, the truth is, even I was reading an article actually not long ago, a science article where the writer of the article was a well-known scientist, and he was saying, "Look, let's be honest. We don't know where all of this came from. You know, we can't explain how existence came to be." And that is correct. We don't know where it came from. We don't know where the yesh came from. Why? Because it comes from a dragi, which is called ayin. If we would know it, Rabbi Yochanan ben Zakkai, if I knew it, if I knew him, I would be him, right? Because only he knows himself, so to speak. So the same thing with Chochmah. If Chochmah knew Keser, if Chochmah knew the ayin, then it would be the ayin itself, it would be keser. But because it's not, therefore there is an opposite distance between them. Right? Just like the yesh. And here we're talking about chokhmah. Chokhmah is not bechinas yesh. Right? Chokhmah is the tachlis how shall we say it? The tachlis that a person tries to achieve is chokhmah. It's the most ruchnistic koyach that we have, the Indian of chokhmah. Right? Everybody tries to achieve chokhmah. But even chokhmah is like gashmias, which comes from nobody knows where. We can't describe where it comes from. Similarly, chokhmah, we can't really describe. Even chokhmah itself cannot describe where it comes from. The yoyz masha en aroch bria legabe atzilus and aroch atzilus legabe orein sof baruch hu. Even more than bria compared with atzilus, which is taka yesh mi-ayin, as we just said. Bria is yesh mi-ayin, because that's the whole Indian of bria means yesh. It means yesh from the word bar, outside of. It's outside of ayin. It's yesh mi-ayin. So legabe bria olam atzilus is bechinas ayin, and therefore bria is ba'en aroch to atzilus. So they're not comparable. They're not in the same kind of scale. So too, atzilus legabe orein sof baruch hu is even more than that. En aroch, yoyz mishayin aroch bria legabe atzilus is en aroch of atzilus legabe orein sof. Even more than the bria from atzilus. Why? Because orein sof has no gedorim at all. There's no gedorim. Like there's no concept of limitation at all. And therefore atzilus, afal pi that is not yesh mi-ayin, it's Gilui and hahe'elem. Nevertheless, legabe orein sof bebechinas ein aroch. Bebechinas ein aroch. And that's why it says also legabe olam hazeh. This is an interesting thing that he points that the Rebbe Rasha points out over here as well. We can understand the inyan ba'en aroch much better than anybody else, since we live in olam hazeh. In other words, more than the malachim. Since we live in olam hazeh, and olam hazeh mamish yesh mamish is for sure ba'en aroch and to the ruchnius of even Sriyas HaChochma. So we can understand the inyan of Ein Aroch much better than the Malachim can. Because there, at least in the Madrega of ruchnius, in any event, this is what he says. Ein Aroch, as we say in the Shabbos davening, Bo Elam Hazeh. Dahanu Sha'anachnu Bnei Olam Hazeh. We in this world, Agashmi, this physical world, Ein Lanu Loemer Shekamosha Olam Hazeh Hu Ka'ayin Hu Kalor Neged Olam HaElyon. Just as this world is ayin legabe olam elyon mikulam. In other words, olam elyon is the world of atzilus. He'll explain that shortly. Kalon keneged olam elyon mikulam shu ruchni moed. That's very ruch. We're talking about olam atzilus. Hakavona olam atzilus shezeu olam elyon. The olam biyan ikraim olam satachtoinim. Pri Yetzirah Asiya are called always in Chassidus olam tachtoinim, and olam elyon is always atzilus. And the Alter Rebbe used to call. He wouldn't be able to say the word atzilus. He would go into a state of ecstasy, spilus. So he would only say the word elyon. Yeah, so he wouldn't be able to say. He was not able to say the word atzilus. He was able to call it elyon, and that's all. Kiyadua the Rabbeinu Nishmasa Eid, and that's Alter Rebbe. hahe'elem atzilus elyon chulu. And the Chulu here is talking about the story of that the Alter Rebbe, why the Alter Rebbe couldn't say Atzilus, he couldn't call it Atzilus, he could only call it Elyon. So too, this Olam Elyon is legabe or Ein Sof, legabe the Ein Sof. So what were we saying? We were saying over here, when we say Ein Aroch L'cha Bo Elam Hazeh, So, B'nai Olam Hazeh Agashmi, we cannot say that just as this world is ein aroch legabe Atzilus, so too Atzilus is ein aroch legabe or Ein Sof. No. Even though we can understand the inyan of ein aroch better than Malachim because they are on a higher spiritual madriga, and therefore they can't understand the inyan of yesh so much. The inyan of yesh, certainly yesh mi-ayin, like we can understand it. Nevertheless, we cannot make that comparison and saying just as we're ein aroch to Atzilus, so Atzilus is ein aroch to or Ein Sof in the same measure. We cannot say that. Right? Atzilus legabe Ein Sof baruch hu leheder tvisas makom d'biyah legabe Atzilus. We cannot say that these things are comparable. The lack of standing of the worlds of Biyah legabe Atzilus is the same as the lack of standing of Atzilus legabe or Ein Sof. No. Why? Why can we not say that? Ki hine habitul olam elyon negdo yisborach. The bittul of olam Atzilus compared with HaKadosh Baruch Hu himself, umitzad shehu nivra v'chaluk mimenu. Because even olam Atzilus is even though it's not created per se, but legabe or Ein Sof, it's an inyan of yesh. It's like a created being. And without the constant recreating of all of the oilimus from moment to moment, it would be completely disappeared. It wouldn't even be there. But that's not the bittul of olam hazeh, legabe olam atzilus. The bittul of olam atzilus, legabe or Ein Sof, is that if HaKadosh Baruch Hu stops thinking olam atzilus, it wouldn't be there. Aber bittul olam hazeh neged olam ha'elyon enoim ela mitzad shu chashuv mimeno. The bittul of this world to the world of Atzilus is only because Atzilus is more important, and therefore we can use bittul. You could say, although this is maybe not politically correct these days, you could say this would be the inyan of a servant and a king, right? The servant is subservient to the king. The subject in the kingdom is subservient to the king. And it's completely, there's no other, the ein aroch one to the other. But you can't say that, therefore, the king has the same ein aroch to HaKadosh Baruch Hu. No, not at all. That just doesn't work. Why? Because this is ein aroch of 1 to 100 million, and that's ein aroch of whatever it is, even 100 million to infinite. Two different things. Two different kinds of ein aroch. Okay, let's continue. Because Atzilus is, after all, still called an oilam from Loshen hahe'elem, and therefore it is the ein aroch to Atzmos. So again, that has certain chashivus. Olam Atzilus is nothing to sneeze at. The shmak azach, and we shouldn't, sort of treat olam atzilus as if it's, a bag of potatoes or something like that. It's not. Right. So, therefore, olam atzilus, the gaba olam hazeh, olam atzilus is chashuv mimeno. It's much more important, and therefore, in other words, it's a difference that can be measured in the same scale. This is less important, that's more important. But Atzilus, the Gabe or Ein Sof, is a whole different scale. So again, it's measured, it's Chashuv Mimenu B'malu Madrega Haruchnis. The tremendous distance between Olam Hazeh and Olam Atzilus. Both of them, Olam Hazeh and Olam Atzilus, are still Makablim. They're still worlds. And even though the higher worlds are mashpia in the lower worlds, in other words, Olam Atzilus mashpia all the way through to Olam Hazeh. And were it not for that hashpoa, we would just completely disappear because the source would dry up. Yeah, the well would dry up, and therefore the river would disappear. הנה מה שהעולם העליון משפיע בעולמות התחתונים, the fact that עולמות העליונים are משפיע, what are the משפיע? אין מצד עצמו. It doesn't come from the עולמות העליונים. כי מחיוסוי מה שמקבל מבוירוי. How is it able to be משפיע on עולמות התחתונים, עולם האצילות? Because of what it receives from the creator of עולם האצילות. ולולא ההשפעה מעולם העליון, היו עולמות התחתונים מתבטלים. And if it wasn't for the עולמות העליונים, the עולמות התחתונים wouldn't be here, as we just said. If the well would dry up, if the spring in the well would dry up, then the river that extends out down from the well would also dry up. אבל מכל מקום לא היו מתבטלים לגמרי. יויז כאילו לא היו. We can't say that there would be completely nothing. Why? Because this is a yesh, and that in a sense, even though it's not yesh, but it's called a yesh legabe or ein sof. Atzilus is a yesh legabe or ein sof. It's yesh mi-ayin, right? אבל מכל מקום לא היו מתבטלים לגמרי ליוס כאילו לא היו. It's not as if they wouldn't exist. If the hashpah from olam atzilus to olam hazeh would dry up, then olam hazeh would sort of die. It would be like a corpse. You can't say that a corpse doesn't exist. It's just not alive. That's all, right? But it will still be there. Because the bittul, lack of hashpah from olam elyon, who shaya miskalel ba'olam elyon, would mean that it would be actually it would merge into the olam elyon. In other words, since olam tachton is the extension outwards of olam elyon, therefore, when it wouldn't extend outwards, it would return to its original source. So therefore, it would be in its original source, miskalel in its original source, and then it would still be there. No, you're right. Atzilus is for sure Gilui hahe'elem and not yesh mi-ayin, but it depends on legabe what we're talking about. Legabe atzmus is yesh mi-ayin. Legabe atzmus is yesh mi-ayin. Legabe or ein sof, legabe the or, it's Gilui hahe'elem. And certainly, if you're talking about legabe olamas hatachtonim, we're yesh mi-ayin. Olam atzilus is not yesh mi-ayin. It's Gilui hahe'elem. But it's a relative thing. It's relative. It's not an absolute Gilui hahe'elem. It's not an absolute yesh mi-ayin. Okay. Everything that there is in the olamas hatachtonim are also found in olamas elyonim, which is why you find in Kabbalah's forum, particularly in Zohar, actually, there's in fact a whole sefer on this inyan, which just goes through all the names of everything in Tanakh, which have to do with Sfiras HaChochma, Sfiras HaBina, just all the names of everything, right? And it's a sefer by Rabbi Yosef Jikatelia. I forget what it's called, Shara Oira. That's what it is, Shara Oira, Rabbi Yosef Jikatelia. So he explains over there, for example, the word Shoshana, right? Whenever you see Shoshana, Shiri Ashiri, full of the word Shoshana. Shoshana is always Malchus, right? Chavatzelet Hasharon, Malchus, and different Madrega in Malchus. But all of these words are called something to do with olamas elyonim, right? Even though down below it's a rose or it's a lily or whatever it is, nevertheless, it has to do with the inyan of olamas elyonim. As he says again, the kol ma shenivra ba'olamas hatachtonim, everything that's created in this world down below, nimtza kalu ba'olam ha'elyon. In olam ha'elyon is b'chinas malchus. In olam hatachton, it come out as a lily, a rose, or whatever it may happen to be. The kol chelka datzcham, the biyah, yesh gam ba'atzilus. Anything that you have down below in the world of biyah, you also have in atzilus, obviously in a much more darkistic way. There's b'chinas malchus. Here is b'chinas lily, or rose, or whatever it may happen to be. Right? Okay. We're going to get moving here. As it says in Eitz Chaim and explained elsewhere. That's because Olam HaAtzilus is still nevertheless Olam. It's called Olam HaAtzilus. It is an inyan of hahe'elem. Im kain habitul shelahem hu rak shiyu b'madrega elyon yoser. אבל לא בביטול לגמרי מכל וכל. So, באולמות התחתונים לגבי אולמות העליונים, it's in a ביטול. Yes, they bottle to it, but it's not that they're not there at all, because they have the shorish in עולם העליון. But when we're talking about olam elyon, in other words, again, atzilus, when we're talking about olam elyon atzilus, and a shaykh lomish who kalbor in so baruch. It's not shaykh to say that there's a madrega of atzilus in or in sof. No, or in sof is ba'en aroch legabe olam atzilus. Right? It's not any one of these midos. You cannot put any hakbolas in the Orein Sof. And if the hashpova would be removed, he would withdraw it. There would be nothing. As if it never was. There wouldn't be even a roishim, nothing. It would all disappear. And that's why Olam Elyon is called Ein Aroch completely. Atzilus legabe again. Atzilus legabe Oren Sof is much more Ein Aroch than Asiya legabe Atzilus or Olam Hazeh legabe Atzilus. Pirush Ein Aroch the inyan ha'erech. So what's the inyan of Ein Aroch? The inyan ha'erech hu echad legabe alofim. When you say that something is Ein Aroch, generally you mean it in it's a quantifiable difference, right? This is a much smaller quantity, that's a much bigger quantity. This is 1, that's 1,000. This is 100, that's 1,000,000 or whatever. Is written in Tanya. It's a part of it, but it's a small part of it, right? That's what's by Ein Aroch. This is a little bit and that's a lot. That's Ein Aroch, but it's a quantitative difference. So in Ruchnias, this is not called a lot or a little, quantity. It's the inyan of Ila and Alul, cause and effect, right? So the effect is contained within the cause. The effect emerges from the cause as 1 emerges from 1,000,000, so to speak. The alul, the effect is included in the cause. It's originally in the cause. It's like a part of it. Right? There's nothing missing in the ila. When the alul is in the ila, there's nothing missing in the ila. And even afterwards, there's nothing missing in the ila. But anyway, that's the idea that that's a part of it. The lowest part of the cause is found in the effect. Is found in the effect. More b'seichel midos, just like we have in seichel midos. Seichel is melubash in midos. What aspect of seichel is melubash in midos? The seichel should be midos, and the lowest part of the seichel should be midos. If you would put it in this particular way, the inyan of malchus of bina is what mashpia on the midos of zeranpin in a technical sense. Malchus of bina becomes a keser of zeranpin. Right, on the Torah that his mother gives him on the Davis Chasana, that's the Davis Chasana to Zohar Malchus, the Yichud of Zohar Malchus, I guess, Hashpor from Bina. Yeah, but Torah, the Torah is a keser that he gets, that Zohar gets from Bina when he's Nisyachet with Malchus. This is all technical jargon that just helps us understand things a little bit better. So koach mashov and dibur, etc., is mushba from seichel, from midas, etc. And as is written in Dibur Maskal, Atem Harem, etc. Taharem, I don't know. I think that Taharem is matcha. I'm not sure if he's talking about the one in Likutei Torah, yeah, but it could be another memoriam as well. In any event, Shahen Naran, that the seichel, midas, etc., and mashov and dibur is Naran, nefesh ruach neshama, as we explained before. That the chitonius of the inyan is nefesh, that's melubash in the avarim of the kuf, ruach is melubash in the midas, neshama in seichel. Bu inyan biyah, that would be called b'yah yitzira asiya of in oilemis corresponds to Naran in the nefesh. V'chein atzilus chulu, and similarly with atzilus is not in a different category. It's just a much higher madrega than the others, right? Nefesh, Ruach, and Neshama, so Atzilus would correspond to the Inyan of Chaya. V'ayin aroch hu, she'ena nimtza kalul b'makoiroi, but Atzilus is not found in its makor. Masha'en ken Biyah is found in its makor in Atzilus. V'inyan ein aroch l'cha b'olam hazeh, and the concept of ein aroch l'cha b'olam hazeh, yesh loimar. So why then does it say ein aroch l'cha b'olam hazeh? It should say ein aroch l'cha to HaKadosh Baruch Hu. It should say in Atzilus dafka, not b'olam hazeh. Why dafka b'olam hazeh? We mentioned this before, and he's going to explain. Are there kelim above Atzilus? Someone asked a question. Yes, there is the inyan of kelim above Atzilus, but not actually kelim. It's the inyan of Hakbola, but not mamish kelim. V'inyan ein aroch b'olam hazeh yesh lo she'olam b'olam hazeh nira v'nigle eich she'ein aroch. Dafka in this world we can understand the inyan of ein aroch better. Why? Shahari etzem hagashmi b'derech ein aroch. Because the gashmius itself is mamish ba'ein aroch. You can understand that gashmius has to come from ayin. And since we don't understand how it comes from ayin, we can understand the in of yesh mi-ayin much better than anything else, much better than any other world. It's impossible for there to be how do you call it, a stepping down of ruchnius in order to make gashmis. It's not that the oyer is reduced until it becomes gashmi. The fact is that the Ramak, who did not, he did not have the inyan of tzimtzum. He didn't understand the inyan of tzimtzum. It wasn't revealed to him the inyan of tzimtzum. So he thought that that's the way it actually was. Gashmis comes about through a reduction, step after step after step of ruchnius. The Arizal points out that would be impossible. It's impossible for gashmis to come from ruchnius, two different worlds, and therefore it has to come about by tzimtzum and not by way of reduction. Tzimtzum is histalkus or, not just reduction of or, as we'll explain in later in Memorim. So in any event, Kasher anu royin, as we see, dava gashmi beherchich loimash yisavusu mi-ayin. B'chinas ein aroch. We have to say gashmis comes from ayin, because where else did it come from? It's not there's a getting like Hinduism, you get lahavdil Abdullah's and case, but you get you get different size gods, so to speak, right? You get bigger ones and bigger ones, and so on and so forth, until they all seem to. But they're all Gashmi kind of thing, it's just a matter of size, I suppose. In any event, we understand clearly that that Gashmis could never come from Ruchnius. It's an inyan of yesh mi-ayin. It could never come from Ruchnius by way of just a reduction. It has to come about by way of Tzimtzum. So, therefore, in this world, we have an understanding of the inyan of yesh mi-ayin better than anyone else. We can understand better than anyone else than the Malachim how there's an inyan of ein aroch from Olam Atzilus to Or Ein Sof before the Tzimtzum. But we can understand the Shahari, Sheharihu Gamken Olam, because Olam Atakton is also Olam, who can yesh mi-ayin. Nimtzad Olam Atzilus Gamken ein aroch v'od yoter, and therefore we can understand the ein aroch of Atzilus and understand that it's even more than the ein aroch over here. Yeah, the ein aroch is the union of a vast quantity to a tiny quantity. Masha'en kain ein aroch of Atzilus to Or Ein Sof is a different world altogether, a whole different union. Okay, the Kitzer, Bir Ha'inyan, we're already past the time. Bir Ha'inyan here, Atzilus, is Gilui hahe'elem, she'en is chanshus tavar. It's not a new thing. Mikom hakom, Atzilus ba'en aroch, legabe ma'atzil. Atzilus is nevertheless ba'en aroch. Yeah, it's a question how Ramak could not hold by an initial tzimtzum at least. Now that we have the inyan of tzimtzum, it's hard to understand how the Ramak could not understand that, but he didn't. Okay. And even more is the ein aroch of Atzilus to be what's before Atzilus. Shezeu rak elyon v'tachton, because olam hazeh and Atzilus is only elyon and tachton. Ma she'ein kan Atzilus Torah Ein Sof is bein aroch mamash. So she'izavuzan hu kalu ba'elyon, nimtza kalu ba'elyon. In olam hazeh is kalu ba'olam Atzilus in one way or another. L'chein gam ha'bittul ha'tachton enu bittul gamra, and therefore our bittul is not complete bittul. Rak shemiz batel mitzius ha'rishon. The original Metzias means battle, but it's not mamish bittul mash. Ein kain olam ha'atzilus to legabe or ein sof. Ein aroch hu she'en nimsa kalul b'mekoira. The real ein aroch is when it's not even found in its original root. Ein kalul b'mekoira. Atzilus is not kalul in or ein sof. V'zehu ein aroch l'cha b'olam hazeh. And Dafka we say b'olam hazeh. Why? Because here we can see it, we can understand it. We can understand that's the way it is by all of the oilemus. How could a physical world come about and can come from spiritual? According to the Ramak, he understood it that it was by various stages of like stepping it down. I think the model that he uses is how steam becomes water and water becomes ice. Like that's how he understood it, which is it's a process, but that's how he understood it. The Arizal says no, that couldn't happen like that. In any event, okay, Bez Hashem next week. The week after that, I think I won't be here, but I'll let you know again. Next week I will be here, and we can learn next week too. All right. Any other questions? All right. Let's put an end to it. All right, thanks everybody. Have a good week.